words of sympathy.
Now, let's get into why we're here today. I want to speak in support of the Conservative motion because Canadians are hurting. Families are being forced to cut deeply into their grocery budgets just to get by. And frankly, that makes me a little bit angry and a little bit sad.
Canada is a wealthy country, but under this Liberal government, it's being mismanaged. Taxpayers are being squeezed, and their hard-earned money is being wasted.
In southwest Nova Scotia, where I have lived my entire life, people work hard. They want to own a home, feed their children, provide a good education to them, and maybe take a vacation every once in a while. But you know what? Since 2015, everything changed. Since I was first elected here in 2019, the cost of living has skyrocketed. Even then, families in West Nova, it was called at the time, but in Acadianapolis, were struggling. We warned that Liberals, their out-of-control spending and massive deficits were irresponsible. But of course, they didn't listen. And now, after 6 months under a new Prime Minister who promised financial discipline, Canadians are still waiting. He said they'd be judged by the cost, he'd be judged by the cost at the grocery store. Well, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are judging him, and they are not impressed. That's right. Instead of delivering relief, this government delayed its budget. So we're still waiting for a budget. We haven't seen a budget in a year and a half. Why? Because it's projecting an over $92 billion deficit. That's a monstrous, irresponsible burden on future generations. That's right. We'll hear it, I'm sure, maybe the questions that they're talking about a generational investment. But Mr. Speaker, what it really is it generational debt that my kids, and their kids' kids are going to have to try to pay in one way or another. That causes inflation and extra costs to future generations. And while this government boasts about withdrawing the carbon tax, it left in place the industrial carbon pricing on fertilizers and farm equipment. That's not relief. That's just politics. The result is that food inflation is 70% higher than the Bank of Canada forecast. Since the Liberals came to power, Mr. Speaker, food prices have risen by 40%. You've heard it many times here today. It's deliberate. It's unacceptable. It's inhumane for a G7 country. We're a rich country. We're a food basket of a country. We can produce all the food for many people in the world, and we can barely feed ourselves for some reason. People find themselves pinched. They're having to make tough decisions, feed their children, heat their homes, buy the things that the school requires, get them into sports if they're lucky. But unfortunately, the food basket is far too expensive. In my riding, food banks are overwhelmed, and I'm sure food banks across Nova Scotia are experiencing the same thing. Food banks usage is up 142% across Canada. And while the government claims to be putting money back in taxpayers' pockets, it continues to take it away through many other means. Low-income Canadians spend more of their income on essentials like food and rent, yet these items are rising fastest in price, and where is the relief? So in my province of Nova Scotia, the situation is dire. In 2023, 28.9% of the population faced food insecurity. In 2024, that rose to 29.3%. Didn't get better, it got worse. 71,000 children live in food insecure households. Feed Nova Scotia, that supports many of the food banks across Nova Scotia, supports 23,000 people monthly. That's a 52% increase since 2022. These numbers are heartbreaking. They demand action. We must protect our food sovereignty. It's difficult in Nova Scotia. I mean, we can produce lots of things in the Annapolis Valley and up and near the Truro and up into the Cape Bretons. But we do have to truck a fair amount of stuff from other parts of the country. So we need to support the farmers we have. We need to support the farmers across Canada. We need to support producers, and we need to support truckers so that product gets to our grocery stores. But once again, it's the taxpayer that ends up paying. It's the person going to the store that finds all of these things far more expensive and most times out of reach when they actually need them. I'd be remiss, Mr. Speaker, if I didn't bring up the challenges in my main economic driver in the riding, and that is the fishery, and more specifically, the lobster fishery. Last season was a tough one, and a number of new entrants did not make it because of the expense of everything. Some of it revolves around tariffs, but some of it revolves around input cost and taxes. And I could spend a couple of hours on how fishers feel that this government is doing their best to make sure that the whole fishery fails. So rather than treat the fishery like the safe and healthy food source that it is, it's being squeezed by competing federal initiatives that don't take into consideration coastal communities that are a long ways from a lot of the services that are in urban areas, but provide safe food products for consumption. And when you add up all those things, not unlike what farmers are telling us, it's really being very difficult to actually make ends meet.